This is TSM 0 and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Episode 89 coming to you live, pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, January 17th, 2018. The time, 8:47 p.m. Central Time. I am Tim. I'll be one of your hosts for this episode. Joining me, as always, you have Brett. Hello, Brett.
What's up, family?
And you have Anuj is back. Hello, Anuj.
What up, what up? How you doing?
Is everything okay from last week?
Well, yeah, things are good, man.
Did the doctor say?
Family came over and mourned, and we're all taking it well, though. What? I got 2-3 more episodes in me.
All right. Hey, man. That's okay. You
Not
can
gonna-
always get Launders on here. Or Shazam. He's not in contract anymore.
If you want to get a budget version of me, go for it.
I can always get that. I'm pretty sure Launders is not the budget version. You might be the budget version of Launders, but that's for a different time. But we are TCR, and of course you can follow us on our social media at The Center Ring on Twitter. You can go to our website, tcr.gg, and get all the other social media outlets from there. Even the past episodes. Even 88, which apparently did not actually hit the website player for whatever reason. So if that's how you listen to us, I apologize. I'll look at it now or after the show. You can also join our Discord. It looks all fancy now since a listener said it was ugly, and I at first wasn't going to let it bother me, and then it just kind of ate away at me, and I was like, fine.
Let stuff bother you. You just need to chill out, Tim. And hey, guys, you can go and see what pixel nibs look like.
If you tell me something doesn't look to perfection, then yes, I will fixate on it. But that's just me, man. That's why the podcast sounds so good, right?
Yeah,
and yeah, that's it. TCR.gg. Go check it out. Join our Discord. We're a friendly bunch in there, and we always watch the Overwatch League matches and all that stuff. So, hey. We do have a ton of stuff to get to, though, so let's get to it. We are going to end the show with e-news, like always, a compilation of stories that we just didn't really have time to get to or just didn't really have time to or the need to talk about. You have CWL New Orleans wrapped up, which in return, the Pro League is now set up for Call of Duty, and there's already drama. Oh, so esports of them. And Anuj will catch us up with all the drama later on in the show. The middle will be occupied by some CSGO major qualifiers for the major at the major for CSGO in Atlanta, but for the Boston Major. So we'll talk some major stuff there.
Some major.
And let's start the show off, though, with some Overwatch League talk, shall we? So
let's do it.
Week 2 is going on right now. San Francisco just got embarrassed by Philadelphia. And Week 1 wrapped up, though. I don't really want to break down all the games, right? It's a week, right? That's a week ago. That's not what we're going to be here for. Even though we are officially the unofficial show for your Overwatch League news.
I could talk Overwatch so long.
We will we'll leave that to higher produced shows, apparently.
Oh, well. So, F me, then.
You know. But what were some of your guys' surprises after going into Week 1? Whether it be from like a league standpoint or a play standpoint with a team, anything that stood out? I knew we kind of talked about it last week, Brett. Anuj, was there anything that stood out to you for Week 1?
Yeah, one of the things that caught me off guard a little bit was I was surprised at like the disparity in most of the matches. Like most of the matches, I felt like ended 4-0 or like 3-1 for the most part. I didn't see. I think like the closest one I thought, which was the hype game, right, for everybody, was the Fuel and Seoul Dynasty game. You know, I think was one of the few that ended in a 2-1 type setting.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were like blowouts, and you saw some of these guys really step up on a huge stage. So I thought you saw a lot of amazing play that first week too. I mean, there were just so many highlight moments, things that stood out. I don't feel like people were playing it safe. I felt like for people that were new to Overwatch or Overwatch League in general. I think they got to see some pretty good games, even though the score lines didn't necessarily show it.
Well, and even like for someone like yourself who you don't play Overwatch on a regular basis, right? You're kind of more of a casual, as we say in the biz, when it comes to Overwatch. But like you still were able to watch it all, and you didn't find it difficult. Like it's still like the league aspect of it had you a little bit more involved than normal.
Well, yeah, there was things. Okay, so I was definitely hyped to see it. I know we all got home that day, and we were like, I mean, we were on probably an hour before they even started, and people were just in Discord chatting about it. So I thought that was really cool. It definitely got me even more excited to see the excitement kind of spewing out of all of you guys, Brett especially from all areas,
Just all the Jack in the
Just
Box,
all over,
man.
Just,
all over.
I'm nerding out on this.
He
So
just
hard.
covered himself in the Jack in the Box. Just
Yeah, there was like
Just smeared on my face.
from a viewing
all over.
standpoint, one thing that I thought was cool is I like the third person aspect that I saw in a lot of the players. There were some players I feel like it's almost necessary to do it, and we kind of talked about some of them, but I thought that was really neat too. I like the way they made it as spectator friendly as I feel like you can get it at this point. I mean, there weren't things that came to mind being like, oh man, they should have done this, or they should
unwatchable,
have
right?
done that.
There's
Yeah,
never a
like I mean, I
point
thought
where-
it was. If you watch the game, you would understand it. I think as a new person, it's still a little difficult to follow because there's so much happening. But for those who watch it or know the game or play the game, I thought they did a fantastic job.
I want to jump off your point there and talk about like if you're new to the game, right? So that's one thing that kind of to me it's okay because I know the game, right? I play it almost every day, and for the last 2 years, that's kind of been my thing to play. But if you were brand new to the game, like Counter-Strike, if you've never seen a Counter-Strike game, it's very easy to tell what's going on, right?
Within 5 minutes, you have the general concept.
Yeah,
of the
good
game,
guys
right?
need to kill the bad guys and plant the bomb and whatever, right? It's very
Other than
straight.
the intricacies like buying
yeah,
and stuff
but I
like
mean
that,
that's
but just
like
the
anything,
shooting and the
right?
positioning and all
You
But
that.
can
the
at least
gameplay,
appreciate
like
it.
Yeah.
from a gameplay standpoint, you get
With
it.
Overwatch and the Overwatch League, I was surprised on how little they try to spoon feed you. Like they didn't explain like, okay, so this is Tracer. Her ability is the pulse bomb, and this is your ultimate. It charges the more you do damage or whatever, right? Like they, from what I could tell, explained almost next to nothing to where if you were like on Twitch, because that's where this is getting broadcast on, just like a window shopper, if you will, you really could not pick up on any, like a lot of the research and knowing what's going on is like your job. They're not going to explain that to you.
Really, the only thing they ever explained was how the maps work, like control maps and stuff like that, like at the very beginning, like week 1.
Mm-hmm.
But like none of the hero, abilities. More to your point, they
That would
really
be
discuss that.
something to be kind of neat off of that is like when they talk about the individual on the team, like the actual real player, they should talk about the player they're using a little bit, right? And maybe show like a player card on both sides. So like show the actual character. I mean, even for me, like I said, I play Overwatch as a casual, and it's like very casual. Okay, so I don't even know all of the supers and all that of every character. If you ask me, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. In fact, I hopped on the other day and there was a character I'd never seen before, right? So it was like that would be kind of neat and helpful, just because there is so much happening, right? I understand in the middle of the game, maybe not being able to break it down because action is kind of happening everywhere nonstop for the most part.
Yeah, and you definitely want to sell it to the people who will appreciate it, right?
Yeah,
give
you gotta
give
like
it to your
hype
target audience, but maybe
Yeah,
at a
for sure.
downtime being like, okay, this is what you just saw, right? This giant beam coming out of this person's hand. It also heals, but it also does damage, right? It's and like if you like you said, Moira probably is the character you're thinking of, and
fingernails.
yes, the fingernail chick.
Yep.
You would never kind of pick up that all her abilities is doing. So to me, like I said, I totally get why. It's just it's something I took note of. Is like, dang, they really are not. This is not for just someone wanting to get into Overwatch, right? This is really that you want to get into the competitive side of Overwatch.
For the first
but
week, you don't
that's
need to
not-
do that either. It's not. I don't
Yeah.
think it was necessary
No.
at that point, just because the ones that are tuning in are the ones that like love the
Exactly.
game, right?
Yeah, they're not catering to the the new audience. They're catering. I mean, it's like watching football, right? Like you're not going to see Troy Aikman. Well, This is a football. It's oval shaped, and they snap it. No, they're not going to go into like each detail. That's not who they're catering to.
Right.
I liked it.
Well, and
But I
counter
think
to
Football,
they
they
that
explained
do a lot
is
enough
of
to make it
breaking
make sense.
down.
football
I
is
feel
not
like
on the
football-
inaugural week. Maybe on the very first game
Well,
of
no,
football
but
ever,
I
they
mean, at
broke
the
it
same
down a
time,
little.
but this game's been open. This game's been more to your point. You've been playing it for 2 years. It's
Yeah.
been around for 2 years.
Yeah, I know.
They
Like I
don't
said,
have
I'm
to
not. It's just
explain it
something
to the newbie.
I took note. Maybe they need like a newbie stream with 3 people who do a podcast and are available all the time.
with one of them
Sure.
being a newbie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
Maybe
do
you can
that.
do interviews, Anush.
I wish I could. I wish we could stream because I would totally love to stream a game as like us just kind of commentating on it. But that's neither here nor there. The other thing, getting into the play, something that surprised me, and I know we talked about it last week, Britt, but I'm going to bring it home for the listeners that maybe didn't hear it, and that's Dallas Fuel's outtake on it. Now they did have the hardest week 1 of any team,
Mm-hmm.
playing Seoul and Valiant.
Mhm.
And week 2 isn't going to get any easier for them, playing Houston and London. But it's how they played that worried me going forward. Like, they really did look kind of lost at times. Maybe the chemistry wasn't as there. The talent's there, but not the chemistry. So that's just something that I think everyone wants to keep an eye on, that what was a favorite to win the league, I had them winning the league this year, is all of a sudden kind of in question, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
chemistry
mean,
kinda
because
has a-
you thought well, real quick, Noosh. I mean, just going into the league, they thought, everyone thought that the strength of their team is their DPS and effect and, Taimu and all that. But they haven't been able to, out DPS other teams or even keep up for that matter. And I mean, they substitute, Taimu is known to be one of the best DPSs in the world, and they're subbing him,
Well, and they're
for,
sticking him on
Seagull or
Diva
something.
and things like that. I
Yeah,
don't.
it-
He's fine as Diva, but come on, dude. Like you,
Yeah,
like
or
even
Torb. He
even look
played
at
Torb.
Carpe. Carpe on Philly is a Widow, changing the way the game is played with some of his headshots and getting triple kills as Widow, and it's those DPS that will get the swing going, right? You use your
Does it
tanks
maybe
as
feel like
kind
they're
of.
behind the meta, right? Like maybe just
It just
something
seems
needs
like
to
they're
change.
thinking too much. Really, like just
Yeah.
do what you're good at. Is kind of what my take on the whole thing is.
Yeah.
Whoops! Someone just accidentally closed out all the show notes.
there wasn't much on
What
there.
was your?
Yeah.
You were saying something here as I'm pulling up the show notes.
So with the Dallas Fuel, they're obviously like a lot of them former envious, but how many of them that were playing in these matches were part of that former team?
All of them except for 2.
So, and then you look at a
Seagull are
team.
really the two
Yeah,
that you're looking at.
XQC and Seagull.
Yeah, so
Those-
this is going somewhere with this then. So then you look at a team like Dynasty, for example. They were a former team. How many of those players were starters on that team?
I mean, all
The
of
whole
them.
thing.
Right? Okay. And then Valiant, anything with them?
Oh no, that's a new.
That's
well,
kind of a mixture. But
Valiant. That's kind of a mix. I mean, you look at all the other teams. There's Seoul, London, and
Florida.
Dallas.
Florida.
In Florida. Those are your teams right there. Your 4 teams that have the most continuity. Everyone else is kind of like a mixture of players that were on other teams.
Now, one thing to note here, though, that was not surprising, is it does seem like the team with the more Koreans win. I'm just going to throw that out there. That the theory in the preseason was, do the Koreans just kind of carry over their dominance? And so far, the answer is yes. Why, yes, they do.
Well, if you look at 3 of the top 4 teams, then yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's London,
It's
Seoul, obviously. Shanghai is in
Counter Strike still
shambles.
waiting for them to step up.
Dude, just you don't even want to tease that right now, okay?
Shanghai.
NA Counter-Strike is just finally kind of being taken serious. We don't need them. We don't need them just to overshadow everything.
We don't want to be 3 out of 3 right now. 2 out of 2 is pretty good.
Yeah, well, give us something here. But what the listener really cares about is our show bet update of the week. So we are doing a little show bet that's between the 3 of us and the listeners, that we pick a listener each week to pick the games with us. This week was Nittany. He is part of our Discord. He's typically in there watching the Overwatch League matches. And to be honest, I don't know if that's really how you say his name, but he's never corrected me.
It's Nittany, like Nittany Lions.
Yeah.
You know, Penn
Okay.
State.
That's
Yeah.
what I've been saying. Okay. I just didn't know if he was nice and never corrected me or
Never
not.
corrected us. He is too nice.
Last week we did have
Stop being
our buddy Donut make picks for the listeners who has a hatred for New York, which made him pick Boston, and they lost. And he also picked Philly, and they lost. Brett, you were a homer, and you picked Dallas,
Yeah.
and you lost.
I mean, my namesake.
Me and
had to
Anuj
do
are perfect, and we went 4-4.
Oh, except for today.
Yep, except for today, where
And we'll talk about
everyone-
that on the next episode. Right now, I'm perfect.
Yeah,
Right now,
right now
you're perfect. Except for
Oh,
when
man.
today you picked San Francisco, shock, and we all picked Philly. You can follow us on Twitter at the Center Ring. We always post our picks and then the results after each week to keep you updated. Right now, the idea is the loser, whoever the listener beats, has to do a show bet payoff. It's tentative. We keep changing our mind. If you go to the Bromo
Right.
channel in our Discord, either we have to get pixelated nipples tattoos,
Or Tracer, right?
or the more
Or
serious
we could be
option,
Tracer with pixelated nipples.
or
I
the
don't know.
losers have to cosplay Tracer as we go to DreamHack Dallas, which I think that's pretty.
Sounds pretty damn good at the moment.
I think that is a
An alternative.
that is a pretty
Oh,
good
I
one.
know what you're doing, Tim. I know you.
But,
Okay, this is like a ploy to make that sound like realistic in our heads.
I mean, Anush, you got the body for the Tracer outfit. Like,
I really just
you
want to
got
see.
the body for the Tracer outfit.
what?
I just
You
wanna
have the
see-
body for the Tracer
I
outfit.
just wanna see
You're the
Brett in
slimmer of
tights.
us all.
I think it would just be funnier. Let's be real.
What?
You in tights.
Why?
It's- I don't know.
Why
Turn some
not?
people on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm losing weight, so maybe I should just keep my weight now
There
to make
you
it
go.
funnier.
There
We
you
should make
go.
a weight bet. So if you're under a certain weight, you're Tracer. If you're over a certain weight, you have to be Roadhog.
Or May.
Damn, hate.
I could do some May cosplay. All right.
So that is the show bet here. You can keep up with it again, or if you want to be one of our listeners to try pick against us, the professionals, hit us up on Discord and or Twitter or both. And
Come at us,
the
bro.
the line is super long, so you know
Oh,
if
man.
it's not for a
Get-
while,
get-
you might get your picks. But hey, you be patient there, and we'll eventually get to you. We're just sifting through our inbox for requests right now. It's ridiculous. But let's talk about some CSGO. It's been a while, I feel like, since we've talked real CSGO. We kind of did a short little preview for it last week.
Everything's kind of kicking off now too.
Yeah, right. I mean, last weekend was the weekend of shooters. So CSGO, the official Boston Major kicked off with the Boston Major offline qualifier in Atlanta for the Boston Major. And
I followed that. All of that.
again, this was what they're calling the new challenger season, which always used to be called the offline qualifiers. So I kind of want to quickly recap on that so the listeners kind of get caught up to date. There were some pretty decent storylines that went into this weekend, and some big teams not that you won't see in the new Legend stage, or also known as the group stage, which is this weekend. I want to start with some of the disappointments here. You got Team Envious. They've been struggling for a long time, and it didn't help that RPK was sick. I guess to the point where he couldn't play
He was like on bed rest. It
yeah,
seemed
it was, I don't know. I don't know if he had the great equalizer or not, but
He was even more lethargic than he always looks.
or if he got paid by Flash Gaming.
that's
Ooh.
also a very good chance. But we'll never know. Sources tell us that we will never know. Going on to here, you had the surprise of the weekend, even though they didn't qualify, but you did have a Vanguard who
At Bangkok.
went 2-3. I know last week I was saying that some of these teams had no business going into this point, or I'm sorry, they had business being here. They did not have a business having stickers and being told that you made the major, right? I thought that part was kind of ridiculous. But a Vanguard did show that they could at least compete. You know, I really hope this is not one of those teams where you don't see them ever again until like big major events, right? Hopefully they get invited to events, but it just seems like with these teams that are on
Like
the
a dream
fringe.
hack or something.
Yeah, but it just seems like with those types of teams, you just don't see them really ever until majors, right? Like Vega, when do you see Vega ever?
You might be seeing more of them now.
Well,
the
I
way
mean, they
played.
qualified.
Vega
They
looked
did,
good.
man, Vega
Yeah.
looked really good. They
It all
went
kind of kicked off, obviously, with the NIP upset last year that people thought was, a big joke. Turned out these guys were an up and coming team that looks like they're here to play. Obviously,
Vega
They-
went
they-
3-1, beating Renegades, Liquid. They lost to G2, which would go on to go 3-0, and then they are the only team that ended up beating FaZe, which it was not even like a close game when they beat FaZe. It was
A lot of pick'ems were ruined at that point.
Oh my god, it was pretty much a beatdown against FaZe. Like skins were lost on that one for sure. Team
Not
Liquid.
you, Tim, right? Because that wasn't your 3-0 team, right? Like you're 3-0. You're 3-0.
Well,
It was
first
definitely
off,
not 3-0.
first off, I just want to make a statement here, okay? I did not do the sticker challenge this time out of protest that I think it's ridiculous that they gave stickers to every team trying to get into the actual major. But the one time I don't do it and pick Cloud9 to go 3-0 is the one time Cloud9 actually goes 3-0.
Well, you got another chance, Tim.
So, well, I mean, they're gonna
it
win
down.
the major. Cloud9 is your
Obviously.
Eventually,
that
you're
is
going to be
your
right on this.
TCR lock of the major. Cloud9 is going to win it.
No, this is the pea shroom lock. Don't get us twisted.
This is your P Shroom lock of the week that Cloud9 is going to take the major in Boston handedly.
Yeah.
I might add. I don't know if they're ever going to lose again, to be honest with you. They dominated. They went 3-0. Arguably, them and G2, who both went 3-0, had some of the easier walkways. Cloud9 had Envious, Sprout, and Mouse Sports. G2 had Flash, Misfits, and Vega, which we said played well. But
that is, I mean, more to your point, that kind of goes on what we were talking about, in previous Swiss systems, right? Like, you're going to have like a lot of good matches, but then you're going to have things like this happen.
Right, where it's like the
and Flash was the replacement, weren't they? They were the replacement for Kailu, so they didn't have high expectations going in anyway, and they played okay. They didn't win any games, went 0-3 obviously, but wasn't horrendous. G2, like you said, had a cakewalk though. Misfits over Vega and Flash. I mean, Vega would be the most competitive team there, but still G2 should be on another level.
Right.
I thought I kind of want to get into this for a second. How did y'all think the Swiss system played out in this part of the tournament?
So we talked about it last week where like everyone loves the Swiss system until they don't. Like that's what happened with the last major. Like everyone's like, man, the Swiss system's great. It eliminates the pools and seedings and then all of a sudden like it doesn't work out and you get a really awful finals and all that.
Now, have you seen like how Starladder is doing like the Swiss system but doing it in a best of 3 format?
Oh, really? No, I did not see that. That sounds like it would take forever.
Yeah, I mean, with how many teams, right?
So they're not going to be they're going to be playing always 2 games at a time, right? So
okay. I think the
theory
Swiss
will probably
system
be
helps when it's this many teams, right? Like looking here, I really do think the better teams made it out. Like I don't.
Yeah, except for QBF. I mean, Quantum Bellatar beat what?
Yeah, I mean they beat Flash, a sick
Envious
Envy
without RPK, and Avantgarde. That's how they qualified to go to the majors.
But you always get that one team in there, though.
Yeah, but if you look at the overall, like a broader picture of the teams that everyone played, you honestly, maybe outside of Vega, maybe Vega played the hardest schedule, like schedule of games going into this, but it's pretty well balanced other than the top 2 teams, but it's pretty well balanced. So I think it works. It's more of like a pick your poison, right?
I would like to see.
I think this is better than like group play.
When it's going into the group stage, I wish they would reseed it though. Like I don't think we should just do when it goes into a group stage for the games, or the new legend stage is what they're calling it. I don't think they should just do random draws like they did.
But even in this stage, if you're gonna pick the number of teams that are coming from each area, you should seed it anyway, because there's no way the Asian minor should have had 2 teams representing them. Like it's like blasphemous to even think they deserved one team in there,
So
let alone guaranteeing 2 spots, right?
so I got a question, Anu. Like, are you talking about like a seeding? Like, there's some overall governing type
You use
body
HLTV, I
seeding
don't care
teams,
like what they use, right? They should have
but
some
then
sort of
NA gets
seeding.
screwed, right?
But
Like,
it's
it's
not
just gonna be a
about
bunch of EUs.
NA. It shouldn't be
Yeah,
like
no,
NA gets through. It should be the best teams, right? Like what game is done by country. We just do that as like a fun fan sake type thing. But in terms of quality of play, there should always be some sort of seeding. That's why everyone uses HLTV. Otherwise, they would have, no
maybe it's
footing.
maybe it's like a high soccer influence in Europe because Europe does this pretty much the same thing that they're doing right here.
Well, I
Like,
think there are
you got teams in smaller leagues not being seeded.
yeah, there's
There's no
something to
seeding
say
really.
about being marketable, right? They just want to have as much. They want their hands or their footprint in as many countries as possible.
Hmm.
Like I think that
and
at some point
you
it
make
is a
like
marketable
the Asia Minor
point.
one, right? Like you
Yeah.
give them like one guaranteed slot
I
until
can
they've
get down with that.
proven they can
Yeah.
have multiple teams. Right now, their second team, like I said, we're looking at it as like Avangar or Flash. Like, who are these guys representing? When you could have had another EU team in here, a team like Optic, who probably deserved to be in something like this. Looking at the lower half tier of teams here, so that's the only thing that bothers me. But I thought the level of play we saw this weekend was still
It was
awesome.
some of the best
Like, it
level of
was
Counter
really,
Strike I've
really
seen
good.
in a long time. Like
Yeah,
I
because
said it in Discord. Like I was like, I really have been so bored of watching Counter Strike for a while, and like this weekend, it was like every game was really good.
yeah, but and you talk about like Flash Gaming. Can we all agree Flash Gaming was probably the worst team
Yeah,
in this group?
Yeah.
And they were a -11 in round differential. So I mean, it wasn't like it was just terrible.
It wasn't, but again, that goes back to the point of who they were playing, right? They were playing teams that are a little bit on the lower end.
Well,
So
Envious and G2, and then Quantum, Bellator, QB. What are we calling those guys?
QBF, I guess.
There we
Hopefully,
go.
we won't have to say it past another round.
yeah. I don't think
Yeah.
you'll
We
ever
don't have
have
to.
to
You
think
don't
about
have to
it after
remember
this
it too
weekend.
much. But yeah, I thought. I mean, it was exciting CS. We saw. It was great to see a team like Liquids, playing with Zeus come out. They ended up going into that slot. Did y'all get a chance last
Okay.
week to talk about 100 Thieves?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
On how
okay,
they weren't
so-
able to get their visas. So what they ended up doing was taking all the 2 and 3 teams for the weekend and basically having a tournament for it. Like it was a 3-team tournament that would decide on which one of those teams is taking 100 Thieves spot in the major. And Team
and-
Liquid ended up beating Avangar in it. And that's how Team Liquid got into the major. I guess it really doesn't
And-
matter how you get there as long as you get there.
And they got a little lucky with
We get
that.
to watch our guy Zeus play some more, right? Friend of the show.
Yeah,
Dude.
that is true. It was
He's,
unfortunate because Renegades was, I thought, the biggest disappointment.
He's
here.
Zeus's coach for a reason.
Yeah, he
That
didn't look
dude-
great.
No, he is.
He didn't look great, but it probably also helped that he took all the calling responsibilities.
He's a
if you noticed.
motivator. He's a motivator.
Well, no, but if you look at who stepped up in this tournament for them, it wasn't Eleague, it was Nitro. Nitro was like by far the player for their team this whole week. It wasn't even one game. He stepped up in numerous games. And a lot of that I thought was thanks to Zeus being there in taking the position he did, which was probably just took calling off of his plate and allowed Nitro to open up and really flourish. And so if you see Nitro at that level and them adding Steel and that's how
what-
Nitro is going to perform.
But we're cheated, man.
That's
And
the
we
one
talked
thing
about
I
that last
took.
week,
That's one
too,
thing I
of-
took away is that like if Liquid is able to do this with Zeus sitting in, when Steel gets in, oh my god, like
Yeah.
that should be
a threatening team.
just a well-oiled machine when Steel gets in after this major, and they can start finally using the roster they're paying for.
And it wasn't even like they were a pushover. I think they took what was it? They took FaZe early on, I believe. Yeah, it took FaZe to 16-14. And so even in that match with Zeus, it came down to a final, one round decided that match essentially. Against Navi, they got blown out, and that's partially because Simple is
It's
playing like the
just
best player
insane
in the
right
world right now.
Isn't it kind of
So-
sucks though that for Simple, it's like no matter what team he's on, he has to go off for them to even be considered like a top tier team. Like it's
Like
always
nobody else at his
Yeah,
level on
I-
his team.
yes.
yeah, and I was kind of scared that we weren't going to get that Simple because the only Navi match I watched was their first one, and at the beginning he was playing kind of rough, but He ended up
They
picking
started off
picking it
slow
up
in
the
that
second
match.
half.
I
Yeah,
remember that match started off close for the first like 6-8 rounds, and I think even the first half was 8-7, and then second half they came out and just dominated.
yeah.
And from there he never looked back though. But yeah, I agree though. That opening couple rounds, it was a little nerve wracking. It was like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, are
it's
they
like,
gonna
come on, man.
lose to QBF here?
Because I want him to succeed so bad. He's not one of those players where I'm just like, he's. I think he's grown up, and I just love it when he's like just awesome. I don't know.
I just
Counter
think
Strike's
it's.
a lot more fun when he's a god.
And then you have Flipside, who, whereas them and Flash Gaming were the only 0-3 teams in this qualifier. The only reason I bring that up is because this is officially the first time that Markelov and C's does not see a group stage in a major, for the first time ever. I really don't know what else to say
I
about
feel like
that
we should
other
be playing
than
some
that.
like sad bed music or something like.
With them, they didn't even show up at this event. I mean, they were minus 27 on round differential. They lost to Misfits. They lost to Avangard. So, I mean, the other team was Liquid, who you understand that, I guess you could say, but that's what Liquid with the stand-in. So they probably had the easiest first 3 games, in my opinion, in that sense, just because you got Zeus standing in. So that was a rough showing for them.
They didn't have
For
a.
them
You're
not to
right.
make it,
They had like one of the easier
Misfits,
sets.
Liquid, and Avangar. Yeah, it's like, man.
You feel bad. They lost Electronic, who was their star player. Seized and Markelov for the big names on that team, but Electronic was the playmaker for them.
Did C's look like he wanted to be there? Like I saw like camera cut to him a couple of times, and he just looked so disinterested, like dejected. Like,
Yeah, when you lose
just looking at
16-4,
and then you're with Flipside, and it's just like, God.
When you lose your opening game 16-4 to Misfits, you're probably going to be depressed the rest of the tournament.
Probably checking out.
Just getting wrecked by Shazam.
Like, what do you even do at that point?
So now
C's had a terrible tournament too.
Well, I mean, like you said, the team in general, no one played well. Now, so this weekend, starting on the 19th, which is Friday, you have what they're calling now the new Legend stage, which is formerly known as the group stage.
Matchups are out for that too, right?
Yes, the matchups, they picked them right afterwards. It was just a random draw. I believe through, like, if you were a Legend team, then you were picked, and then a new Legend team was picked, right? That's kind of how they alternated. This is another reason why I don't like the Swiss format, right? Because when you look at this, like when you're trying to preview something, you're literally going team by team, because after round 1, who knows what would happen, right?
I'm kind of looking. There's a couple of matches.
I mean, there's
at
matchups that are good, right?
Like
but
Na'Vi and Gambit. Like,
it's so difficult projecting on what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because it all comes down to, if there's really hard matches in the first day, then the second round is going to be hard, because there's always going to be one good team falling into the losers bracket, right?
Well, and then look at this like you said, Gambit and Na'Vi are playing. Realistically, both of those teams probably shouldn't even win the first game, but one of them has to at this point.
This goes back to the initial point of it's difficult without seeding. It's always going to be so random, and you're going to have these lopsided games where there should be maybe these 2 teams that fell into the losers bracket because they had really tough first round matchups with another top tier team that shouldn't even be there, right? And so if there's seeding, you kind of avoid, I mean, maybe you take away some of the underdog story, which is nice to have in some of these tournaments, but at the end of the day, you want to see the best teams playing.
I like storylines. Seeding and groups give me storylines to go off of. I'm a man of simple taste, and I work in radio. I need storylines. The Swiss format really doesn't offer it unless you're really looking at like a random storyline, right?
I'm going to tell you the day 1 storyline. Is it happening again to C9? If they lose to G2, they could fall into the losers bracket.
Can you believe it, though,
and
that they
have
got G2?
An incredibly tough second round match, because you're going to have at least 2 or 3 really good teams losing in that first round.
So I think it's funny. Like when I look at, if you said, hey, who's better, G2 or C9, I would probably lean towards C9, or at least say they're pretty much even, right? But when they're against each other, Cloud9 cannot beat G2. I don't know what it is about them, but when they play each other,
dominated by them.
It just doesn't work out. So of course they're playing them in round 1.
And both the 3-0 teams that advance.
That was what I was about to bring up. It was the 2-3-0 teams that are
Again,
playing each other.
you want to talk about reseeding right there. You just had the best teams out of qualifiers. All of a sudden now are going to be one is going to go immediately into the losers pool.
Yeah.
Just like that.
That's why seeding would help. I feel like they have it lined up for them. HLTV is doing the work for them, so it's like use
Some
the
of these
seeding.
matchups, though, are I mean, like Liquid and Big. Big has been completely irrelevant since the last major.
And
So,
now they're getting to play Liquid in the first round with the stand-in.
right.
And like, okay, so now you could have Big essentially going round 2. Then you have VP, who's been performing like garbage for majority of the year except for when it counts, right? I guess you could say. And they get, who do they got? Like QBF first round, I think.
QBF.
So that's gonna be a little interesting because you're gonna have, like I said, a couple good teams falling out. Either Gambit or Navi is going into the losers bracket. Astralis, with Device back. Let's see how they do together. Playing Mouse in the first game, definitely not an easy first game. And Fnatic, who's given FaZe trouble in the past, surprisingly, is also a matchup that you can't just look past.
Yeah.
It's
gonna be fun though.
Yeah, and it all starts on Friday. I'm sure super early, man. These games go all day long. They got 2 stages sets up there. I don't know why Eleague just doesn't run 2 streams. I mean, I get it. They want the viewers on one, but good lord, like normal humans cannot watch this stuff from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. Like, does anyone really sit there for 12 hours watching this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
if
speaking
I
of
had the
viewers,
time, I would.
You would have it on in the background.
Did really well
Yeah.
for viewership this week throughout the week.
I mean,
was
sometimes
really
peaking
really
over
surprised.
500,000.
Yeah, and
G2 Vega 526.
And honestly, like that surprised me because I thought maybe a lot of people were just going to be like, because you had more, what we were talking about earlier. A lot of people were saying, well, this is a fake part of the major. Why are we even, why do we even care about this? But it brought
people showed up.
People showed up
numbers,
like it was
the
man.
major.
That was pretty awesome to see, like how many people. I just wonder what it's going to be like for the ACTA major, right? Like,
right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's
1
the
million?
new
1 million,
Legend
guys?
stage. Oh, it's gonna
Yeah.
easily, I think, break over a
Oh,
million.
for sure.
Yeah.
It will easily break over a million.
Without Chinese viewers, it was like I said, over 500,000. That's pretty crazy. It's just a random stat on this. I'm looking at the top 5 matches from the group stage and their viewer count. Surprisingly, Cloud9 in none of those 5 games. That's actually shocking.
NA's not bringing it, man.
Well, Liquid isn't one of them. Liquid had the 3rd highest viewed game, and it
I
was
think
them
it's
versus
just
Vega.
it's one of those things like when they're gonna win, right? Like, why even watch?
Oh my god.
and part of it might be timing too. Like you said, a lot of these games were on all day. I mean, the games were running all day, so if you had a peak time, that would also
help out.
That would also help.
So that's the new Legend stage. That all kicks off on Friday. Next week we'll do like a full on like in detailed preview of the actual playoffs for the major. And that will be a proper one there because we'll actually know the teams. It will be easier to see a bracket. We'll break it down even more next week.
A lot more analysis.
We are your official, unofficial show of the Boston Eleague Major. So keep it tuned right here.
Officially unofficial.
On TCR.
For the major.
And we are the official, unofficial CWL New Orleans show. Thank you for joining us. That did wrap up last week. No bomb threats this time. It was a quite smooth operation. I actually kind of chuckled in Championship Sunday, I think, when like the finals actually started at like 5. And I was like, oh, so this is what it's supposed to be like when there's not a bomb threat. I was like,
in the murder capital of the world, like
New
Orleans.
This is interesting. This is nice. This is nice not having a hour and a half
because
delay.
that dude's in jail.
It does help when the guy did it is in jail now.
Good.
But that's neither here nor there. Going over some of the results, you have, let's see. Well, Team Caliber, they ended up getting first, so that's their back-to-back from CWL Dallas. They looked
25,000 points.
Yeah, they are in a commanding lead right now for first, considering Luminosity got second, Rise Nation got third, and Red Reserve got fourth. So even like Splice, who was a finalist last time in Dallas, were in the top 12, right? Like, to be fair, they had a ridiculous group. And yes, you brought it up. You ruined my big reveal, but that's okay. Optic Gaming got in the top 12 after getting beat 3-1 by Red Reserve in the most fitting fashion, I might add. It was a hard point, and they had 1 second. I definitely encourage you to go watch it.
So depressing.
1
It's incredible.
second to go to win the hard point map. They were on the site too, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. They were on the site. Then Red Reserve ended up killing them off the site, took over, and then they controlled it the rest of the time. Like, Optic Gaming had it. They had the win, and then they blew it. So I don't know what's going on with them.
There was a couple of those matches in this tournament. You know, there was a handful of matches where it felt like it went down to the last second or two. And
to go 4-0 though for them, like to go 4-0 in groups like they did, and then to get top 12,
bomb out like that,
dude.
Disappointing.
Like, they are just not able to compete with the better teams right now in World War II, and I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's the whole boots on the ground thing, but I guess they liked the jetpacks more, but they are not
a lot of these
looking
teams
good.
remade themselves to fit this style of play better, right? We saw a lot of roster changes, you know, during the off season to align players that were maybe better suited for boots on the ground. Optics stuck together because they obviously won the Worlds, you know, just prior to this game coming out. So they didn't feel like they needed to make a change. And they have some really good boots on the ground players, but they just haven't stepped up, you know, since you know, they just haven't stepped up in this tournament. They had a bad showing.
And it's not like one glaring person, right? It's not like Karma's playing bad or anyone there. It's just
nobody's standing out.
No,
right?
no one's,
they're all like doing okay.
Whether it be for better or worse, right? No one is standing out.
So now you drop in, you know, just in this tournament alone, you lost a 20,000 point differential between you and Caliber right there.
And that's going into the Pro League, which is kicking off. Oh, I had the date here. It's like the 23rd of January, I think, is when the Pro League kicks off. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what it is. And already we have some drama going into it. Anuj, you'll have to catch me up on this. I've seen bits and pieces of it. It's teams and their pro points are getting lost. And, you know, I would love to follow all of this on the CWL's website, but it's trash. The CWL
this is all Twitter.
Website is trash.
If you want to stay up to date on drama, do yourself a favor. If you don't have Twitter, get Twitter. While you're on Twitter, follow at the center ring. But honestly, Twitter is where it's at. Like, people just put their feelings. People just put their feelings out there. You know, it's like, it's crazy. So, little backstory on this.
Knows all about putting your feelings on Twitter.
Shit, seriously. If you hey, I'll keep it real on Twitter too. So I feel like we're good follows, semi good. Anyways, pro points are what these players or teams earn in order to, you know, define your ranking throughout the season. They all earn pro points for not only these big tournaments where the pro points are massive, you know, like we just said, 25,000 points for the winner, but you also get points on a daily basis. You can play up to 5 GBs, which are game battles, and each game battle game can earn, each individual or player can like max out at 35 points. So for the team, it's like 140 points essentially per day, and that's every day they have to do this. So it's about 2 hours of grinding.
And then they do like 2K tournaments, which is
you
get
every Sunday, and that's like every Sunday, and that goes like 12 to 12 basically. So every Sunday they're completely booked because they have to get these points. Every day they're pretty much required to play at least 2 hours a day, and then they go practice, you know, and they've all complained about this. They all actively complain about this because it's like, dude, we practice for like 3, 4, sometimes 5, 6 hours, depending on.
But then we have to do like tournament. Actual meaningful games, and it's like,
yeah, we have to do these games on the side. So where this all stemmed from is this issue right here. So what happened here? Enigma 6, who was created by FaZe Sensor, he's also a player on the team. Enigma 6 was basically setting up fake GBs, and they were just having the other team report a loss, essentially. So they would queue the game up. Other team would just report a loss. They would set up the games with them every day.
So these fake teams, 5 times. Did they involve 4 actual people that all agreed to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
4, because the other team has to report the loss.
Yeah, so
too,
it's like,
right?
but he would get like buddies or people online and be like, yo, just create this team.
Whoever. They played the same people every week. You know,
so
every day.
With these game battles, it's not like you have to compete against other like top tier teams. It's legit like anyone.
It's anybody. It's anybody on game battles. That's why they're always posting.
Maybe we're on to something, guys. We just get 8 people and
just
you
keep
know,
challenging
I'll be on the
them.
losing team. That's fine. You
Well,
know,
the problem
I'll
is
just be good.
it's not enough for people like you and me to like just accumulate those points and move up that high. But when it comes to these top tier teams, when the differential is sometimes like 20, 30, 40 points, each day matters for them. And they're like, even on Christmas, we have to take those 2 hours out to go do this. So, of course, what have they started doing is setting up these fake games. So, Enigma 6 got essentially 240 points deducted. They told FaZe Censor this on Friday or Thursday night or Friday morning, right before the tournament started. They said, "Hey, we're on to you." He admitted to it. He didn't deny it, which was good on his part. Admitted to it, and they deducted him 240 points. So now, fast forward to after this tournament. In order to get into Pro League, you have to be, I believe, top 8. Maybe it's 12, whatever it is. I think it's 8 or 12. You have to be in that grouping to get into the Pro League. Well, Enigma 6 ended up falling behind, I think it was Evil Geniuses. They ended up losing by like 15-point differential, right?
Dang.
And
It
so
is
those
top 8, by the
240
way.
points,
It's
yeah, top 8. So there was like a 15-point differential. And the only way Evil Geniuses could jump back ahead of them was on the day of the tournament, like the second to last day. They would have to wake up at like 2 a.m., play 5 games from the hotel, and accumulate those 140 points.
so even
as
like
a team.
on a day with CWL New Orleans, they have to do this.
Yeah, so
God.
Censor looked up all of this stuff and reported it to MLG and was like, look, how do they play a game at 2 a.m. when they have a game that same morning at like 8 a.m.? And where did they get it from? Like, where did they get the 4 games from, the 4 players from? How did they get them all like
Basically
together
saying
with
like this isn't adding
monitors?
up. They're in the room next
PS4.
to us. Like
Yeah,
how is this
they're like
happening?
right here. And so then he found other tweets that were like, look, he says they're traveling at this time, then they're on the plane. But if you look at game battles, they have a game queued at the same time. Like, how is this possible?
So he went like full detective mode.
Yep. And so then the ruling came out that they're not deducting any points from Evil Geniuses after their conversation with them, and more information came out. They said, no, we're not deducting any points from them. They're still going to be ahead of you, right? So FaZe Censor takes his phone and turns on a recording device and goes up to Nameless from Evil Geniuses and confronts him and is trying to get him to confess about not being in the game battle, and
Faking
Nameless,
it. Right.
yeah, Nameless, to his sake, did not say that, but he insinuated whatever you did to piss off MLG, like that's your problem, is basically what he was saying. He's like, look, we're trying to get into Pro League just as bad as y'all are, so I'm not going to do anything to help you out. But he didn't admit to actually throwing the games, but it's known, it happens, right? Like I feel like they all probably do this to some extent.
Right.
So he leaked this phone conversation on a YouTube video. This dude has like 1 million followers, right? So he leaks this out there, and now you have this whole meme drama situation going on right now of, who the hell do you trust? Like, who's wearing a wire in every conversation now, right? So it is insane. It's just funny to
Dude,
follow on Twitter.
Bottom
because
line
it's
is you don't
over
trust
the top.
You don't trust anyone
Anybody.
but your organization.
And even then, it's like, who does that though? Like, you've just ruined your reputation.
Especially if there was nothing in there, right? It's a different story if you like decided to record it and he's like, yeah, dude, we just fixed all of our games, bad luck on your part that you got caught.
That's exactly what I thought.
It's
when
like,
he leaked the
if
phone. I was like, dude, there's nothing.
Yeah, if there's nothing, then yes, you just killed your own reputation, and now Enigma 6 just look like a bunch of crybabies to the entire pro scene.
Looks terrible. It really looks terrible.
Not a good look, but man, it does create fun drama. And the best part is, it's like the pro leagues, the divisions are already set. It's like Enigma 6 is out. At this point, it's just he's burning bridges for the sake of starting fires.
And he's not helping his case, because now it's
done.
like, nah, we don't really want this guy around anyway now, so
it's done.
Move on. Yeah.
By the way, the Division B in the Pro League is stacked. I think Division B in the Pro League, where you have E89, FaZe Clan, which I think is surprisingly better than what people thought, Luminosity, Splice, Envious. Whew. Division A, you have Optic, which suck. They're probably going to get last place. And Team Caliber.
Just because.
Just because. Out of principle.
I
I told you,
New Orleans, you said.
that will teach any of these organizations to ignore my emails. Okay? You will rue the day when the TCR curse, where you will win one world championship and never again. I hope they learned their lesson.
I'm sure they did, Tim.
So there is some CWL talk for you. Fun and drama. So, I mean, what's coming from this then, Anuj? Like, literally nothing, right? It's just...
At this point, he just looks like a jackass. So that'd be the first thing coming from it. The rest is just going to just be fun drama now, right?
Yeah,
I think that's all it's going to do. It's just going to be something to talk about, made fun of. Not a whole lot's going to happen from this. What I think they need to do, hopefully what actually comes out of this, is the revamping of the point system. Because I do get it. I get why they do what they do in order to get those points. There's no way every single day you're going to sit there and go 2 hours and then go practice and then on Sunday run a 12-hour tournament every single Sunday. Like, no, it's not worth it. COD, some of these guys make decent money, but most of them probably don't make a lot. So they need to revamp how the point system works. There's no need for a pro team to get matched up against us four.
I was just about to say, there needs to be a cutoff. Like, once you hit pro status, like once you make it out of open brackets at these tournaments, then you probably should make enough points or whatever to solidify yourself as...
These points should only be relevant in an open bracket. They should have nothing to do with the pro seed. Like, the points should not even count towards any pro team, and they have their own point system at that point, and find some way to move people up or whatever. But the system, the way it is right now, is broken. Teams, I think, will be a little bit more cautious, but there's no way it completely stops.
It's weird
right
though,
now.
because like
or
MLG...
maybe don't do as many points for like the daily stuff.
But even then, even
Or
if it's
just
like,
even
even
take
if you
down-
told them it was 5 points, they would
They'd
still
still
do
do
it
it, grind
because
out.
you just
Yeah.
don't know
Well,
like,
you
what
think
it's going to come
if
down
you're
to.
not doing it, but the other team is, that's 5 points a day. You know,
That's
it's
35
25
points a week.
Yeah, it's like
Maybe you don't
we'll make it
do
different.
all 5 games because like the first game is worth 15 points and then every game after is like 5 points. So maybe you just do the first game or something. But still, to have to commit to something like that every day, take out holidays if you're going to leave it the way it is. Be like, hey, these don't count around these times of year, so you can at least spend time doing whatever you do.
Or why don't, like, they know that tournaments and stuff are coming up, right? So just make like the week prior or, you know, the week before and after pointless, right? Like, don't get any points for these weeks because people are going to be at the events busting ass to get to that point. So let's
These
not
guys
do
are
it.
playing 12 hours in a day and then have to go back to their room and play against you and me.
Yeah, like it seems... And I get it, like MLG has always been about that, like even in Halo, like, hey, anyone can rise up through the open bracket, right? That's always been their big fun selling point. But it just, at the same time, I mean, you got to give the pros some respect, right? They can't be constantly doing this. And I do want to get into some e-news here, but one thing I did want to bring up before e-news, I thought it was not important to dedicate like a whole like 15 minutes to, but just enough to not just throw it away in e-news. We did have a pretty important retirement this last week on the 12th in esports, and it was the gentleman who brought us in today. That is TSM Zero from the Smash Brothers 4 community, or Smash U. He announced his retirement, I think it was like last Friday on the 12th. And dude, it's a pretty big one for the Smash community. It's he literally, like, the new world rankings just came out for both Smash U and Melee. Zero was the #1 in the world. And he was, since the game came out, like, he went on a 52-game winning streak, or a tournament winning streak. When the game first came out in 2015, he like almost went literally the entire year without losing a tournament when it first came out. Zero was insane. And to have the #1 guy in your game retire and basically say, hey, I'm going to take a break until the next version of this game comes out, probably not a good sign for that game, I would think. Zero is kind of an odd guy, and he could have made this on an emotional decision. Like any retirement in esports, I always say, I'll see you next tournament. Because, let's be real.
He's not quitting, right?
Yeah, no one... It's to say you're...
I mean, but hey, if he does, maybe he'll give someone else a chance to...
Well, that's the thing. It's
win
he
something every
announced that
once in a
he's
while.
retiring from Super Smash Brothers, but like in the same breath, basically saying he's only really taking a break. It's like, okay, so what if Nintendo comes out and says, yo, there's not going to be a new Smash Brothers for like 3 more years on the Switch, then... Or here's my take on it. Right now in the Smash community, you have like 2 games, right? You have Melee, which is still the dominating one for skill, and then you have Smash 4. You have Brawl in between that everyone just ignores that it was never even made. So what's to say, like, that's such a finicky group of people on what they like and don't like and what they consider skill-based. What's to say that, like, Smash on Switch isn't going to completely suck to their standards, you know? So you're just running the risk of, like, hey, I'm going to wait to this next one, and hopefully it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Nonetheless,
Why
though,
don't
I
they
just
just
think it's,
remake
I just think
Melee?
he wears his like emotions on his, you know,
On
his
his
sleeve,
scarf?
and I just think I'm just thinking it's him just trying to maybe get a reaction out of people. To be honest, like I follow him on Twitter, and I just want to put a blanket over him and tell him it's gonna be okay.
well, he does wear the scarf
gonna
that his
be
mama
okay.
got him, so maybe you can just do that. But he's actually a sweet guy. I don't want to talk. I don't want to
No,
talk too
no,
much
yeah.
smack
But
on
I
him.
mean, I'm just saying he's an emotional guy.
Listen.
Like, it's just him trying to maybe
He's a
get a
chubbier
reaction.
dude.
I think.
He wears gunner optics, and he wears a scarf around. There's a lot of things to not like about him, just from a physical appearance, but
Tim,
from
why
a
don't you be nice, man?
personal.
All right.
Listen,
just-
I really no offense, no offense to the guy, you know, super nice guy, but you know, we'll see what happens. I'll be surprised on how long the quote unquote retirement lasts, because you never know. All right, so let's get into some real e-news here, shall we? Quite a bit going on. We have another actual pro league trying to get into esports, with the Major League Soccer announcing that they're going to create a FIFA league. And of course, what are they going to call it? Nothing but EMLS.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's original, man.
That's very
Super creative.
Very creative on their part. Bravo, MLS. Basically sounds like they're just mimicking a like what NBA is doing, where they're taking
Which
like
is super successful, right? That's gaining a lot of
well,
ground.
it hasn't
right?
started yet. All right, let's not judge just yet. But no, you're probably right. So we'll see. I don't know. It's kind of funny that a fleeting league is already creating a fleeting like I don't think anyone thought, hey, the MLS, you should use your budget on an esports league. But hey, that's why I don't have the job. You have Rogue was acquired by Rect Global. Rogue also owned by Steve Aoki. What do you got on that, Anuj? Anything for us?
Super exciting.
Yeah, all the excitement.
So Rect Global,
Who's
they're
Rect
kind of like you can go to their website and read what they do, and you still really won't know what they do. They are one of those many companies that say that they are going to bring esports into the future. They're basically what I think is they bridge the gap between like traditional sports and esports, to where like say you're a traditional sports and you need somebody in esports to do something, you reach out to them and they're like the middleman. I think.
So can I say something here? All right, so they want to bring esports into the next generation, but they're using the most generic
Dude, I know.
esports gaming term in their name.
What's best is the way the way they spelt it. So it's capital R, lowercase e, of course, because it's esports. Capital K and capital T, Rect Global. Building the future of esports. That is what you see right when you go to their website. And you know what?
I look at that name and I just think douche.
Obviously,
like,
they're
just
more
like
successful than we are because they can purchase
no.
Rogue, but
The KTG is a Russian symbol for money, and it's a Russian-based company.
Well, we don't care.
oh, are they?
They have.
No, I'm just.
I was about to say, man,
I mean, you could
you
have said
sounded
that.
so believable. Like I was like,
I mean,
really?
yeah, no, man, God.
Per sources.
Of course.
Per sources
Oh.
there.
It just looks like something like a kid would do.
What is going on? Oh, oops. I also played the jazz
Timber, you're
bed.
right, man.
Man, I was like, who the hell is playing jazz music? But it was me. My bad. My bad. What else do we have here?
He just has a jazz flute in the background.
Yeah,
and
I
he just plays it.
At first, I thought it was like a
Pulls it
dude.
out.
I was like, what are you doing? Like,
Practicing, bro.
yeah, I'm like, what? Someone just
Kitty G out over there.
practicing their flute? You also have here where Houston-based venture capital firm plans to build a $70 million esports arena in Houston. That's Work America Capital Management Group. So there you go.
All right.
They're setting the bar
building their
high
own
for those.
venues. Yeah.
The
All
plan
right.
is for a 70,120,000 square foot esports arena complex dubbed the Cannon.
Jerry Jones
The
built
can.
$1 billion one, so what now?
The area
Yeah,
will be part of a
complexity, what?
larger tech-focused Work America capital development called the Founders District in Houston.
Okay.
So there you go, man.
People thought Jerry built AT&T Stadium for the Cowboys.
No.
Little did we know it's for complexity.
It's for
He
complexity.
built it for Peter. It's like,
Thanks,
hey, Peter, I got you, bro.
taxpayers.
Yeah.
Suckers.
Got him. So that's, I mean, that's pretty cool though. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing, you know, what will I assume be where the Overwatch League will play and everything there.
In 1 to 2 years. That'd be
Yeah.
exciting. I'm down.
And
I can get down on
that pretty much lines up for it. So there you go. Now you're all caught up with e-news. I hope you enjoyed the show. That is episode 89 of The Center Ring, a.k.a. TCR, a.k.a. your favorite esports podcast. I appreciate you listening to this episode. If you're a new listener, or if you're old and you just haven't joined us yet, go to tcr.gg and you can find our Discord there. We're friendly people, I promise. You can follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Spread the good word of TCR. Get your friends in it. I don't know. Whatever you got to do there to make sure we live on into perpetuity. We'll be back next week for our Eleague Boston Major playoff preview episode. That will be a good one. Probably pretty heavy in CSGO. We'll keep you up to date on what's going on with the Overwatch League, as we are your official, unofficial show of the Overwatch League. Yeah, that's it. Thank you again for listening to TCR. For Brett, for Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see you next week.